It's okay. My sweet, sweet boy.
This is the scene that keeps on playing on over and over in my head. For me, I think that it is a myriad of things, not something that is so simple. I've done so many videos on the psychology of Homelander. If you, like me, has the psychology of what's happening with Homelander running through your head, let's go through what exactly brought Homelander to this point.
Sweet boy. There for you always.
Okay, good. Why does everyone keep leaving?
Sweet boy.
We already went through a little bit of the psychology of who exactly Homelander is, but when we're talking about narcissistic traits that he definitely exhibits, especially malignant narcissism, the subtypes of narcissism are not actually in the DSM, but they're often used in nomenclature. And in those, Homelander would fit into that malignant, grandiose narcissism, that ability to be cruel, the lack of empathy, the need for power, the being very, very fragile, not being able to take criticism or rejection, and reacting with strong feelings of anger, that he doesn't feel good enough on the inside, and that if he doesn't control others, that they will leave them. And it's almost like he has this pit, this hole inside of him that no matter what can never be filled. He doesn't feel secure or safe in himself.
My boy. My poor sweet boy.
You hear that poor sweet boy? Now, what often happens, especially when we've gone through all kinds of trauma, is that these voices, these thoughts, these statements that we have had that have hurt us, because they play over when we are angry and wanting to hurt someone else or feel like someone else has disappointed us, they often come back. We will say those things that we promised ourselves that we would never say to someone else. In Homelander's case, he's probably never said that. He knows that that's not the right way to be, but what happens is when you're really upset, it shuts off the thinking part of your brain, that prefrontal cortex that talks about consequences to actions, and we just act. Now, if you are dealing with a complex trauma, that feeling that you're going to be replaced, that you're going to be forgotten, and that fear of that because you need everyone to commemorate you. There are not enough pictures or posters or statues of you to make yourself feel good enough. You need your name, your face on everyone's shirt. And even if one person out of 1,000,000 is against you, you will feel that as a hurt against you. And exactly as Sister Sage says,
I told you, no matter how much power you amass, it will not make you happy.
and that's absolutely true. It is like your ego, your sense of self hasn't even developed. And often you are at a lower developmental level in certain areas because of that. And it doesn't matter how many people adore you, it's never enough.
Also, very proud to say that this great hero is my father.
Oh, Homelander, when did you find out? Homelander, when did you find out?
Someone with this type of wound, they can't have anyone else outshine them or take the spotlight. And so when he sees Soldier Boy, someone else who is seen as very, very strong, it is someone that is his father that said that you disappoint me, that he's starting to shine and take the spotlight away from him, it is devastating. So because of that, he has to do something, even though it is against protocol, he has to do something to try to gain back the spotlight from that. He needs all of the lights to constantly be shining on who he is. And you could see this in social settings when you're talking about a story or something amazing happening. Someone that has narcissistic traits or a narcissistic personality disorder will constantly need to one-up you, make the story about themselves, and when the story is about anyone else, you can see them start to fade off, and then when the story is back about them, they're suddenly paying 100% of attention. But that makes someone with a very fragile ego. And if we add that with aggression, then we end up with a very dangerous situation where you can feel like someone could say something that is an offhand joke at your expense and you can't handle it. And you will need to have to destroy them because you feel so very hurt. All of that negative self-talk, all of that feelings of not being good enough, not being loved, often this occurs because someone didn't feel loved or cared about when they were young. And there's no amount of today amount of love from the outside that can actually fill or replace that. But unfortunately, people with narcissistic personality disorder often don't go to therapy to actually fix themselves, because that would just be too painful, dealing with too many vulnerabilities. And because of that, they would just feel threatened and horrible. And so that's a really difficult thing to have to be able to do. You often have to strengthen up your ego before you're able to go be honest and admit your faults and your mistakes. Usually they come in to actually talk about someone else that did something wrong and how they're doing everything great, and they actually are hoping for just confirmation and will only listen to the information that says those things. Anything that goes against that, they don't even register. It doesn't even go into their long-term memory. They don't hear it at all. And so often when they're even sharing a story, it will seem like a completely twisted version, which actually looks at them in a better light than what might have actually happened.
Come on. I would never have sent you in there. If I knew the butcher had the virus, I wouldn't have. I swear to God. Although I did tell you not to engage. So, if we're pointing fingers, I don't think I should be exclusively at fault here.
He seems to always want that affirmation from Soldier Boy that he's never gonna get, that he wants that confirmation of that he's good enough. But because inside of himself he doesn't actually believe it, doesn't actually matter what anyone else says. There's not enough of accolades that can heal this wound. It has to happen from the inside out, not the outside in. That's ineffective. And that's why a lot of people that are constantly surrounded, they only feel as good as their last project, because those are those superficial things that make us feel good, not the internal things that are our character traits or how we see ourselves as a person. And his negative self-talk, as you can see, is really horrific.
If the virus doesn't get you, time will. And when you're sitting in that wheelchair in a colostomy bag, I'll be running the 7. Sherry Lewis's.
Okay, that was just so funny. I'm sorry. Not the actual statement, but then I had to look up who Sherry Lewis was because I wasn't sure, and it's the person that was the ventriloquist for Lamb Chop, which is this little tiny cute stuffed, this cute little stuffed lamb puppet. And I actually, my dog has that same puppet, so I was just like, it's hilarious that that's who they chose. Anyways.
Look at you. Just the softest, wettest boy. You're pathetic. You're nothing at all.
Homelander's so much stronger than Soldier Boy, theoretically. He shouldn't have to worry. He's not actually scared of him. It isn't about that. And this can happen. Even someone, and often someone that's gone through childhood trauma or felt unloved, they have this wound and they go back to being this boy in front of these people, even if it completely changes and that the power dynamic is different. The internal part to you is often stunted at that age. And so you can see around Soldier Boy, he is still at a very young developmental age in want of his affirmation, of being proud of him. And that can happen. That can happen even after a parent that was never ever there and showed you love and care. You may always be searching for that in all of the relationships around you, and that can be really painful.
Maybe if I'd raised you, I could have made you better. You're a disappointment. Disappointment.
The pitiful disappointment you are.
Deep down, there's a part of you that is still human. You're pathetic. Pathetic.
Weak. You're my greatest failure.
You're nothing at all.
And this is actually really true of negative self-talk. Now, this has nothing to do with whether you are narcissistic or not. A lot of people are dealing with a strong sense of negative self-talk. And this can be all the time. I have people that this is the only voice that they hear all through the day. And you can think about why you would never say that to someone that you love or care about, hopefully. And the reason that you wouldn't do that is how damaging that would be. But what happens if that negative self-talk, that voice is in your head and it's there all the time? How destructive would that be to your own self-esteem, your sense of self, your need for validity, that people could love you for who you are, not to have that need to control through power and fear, because if you don't, everyone would leave you, that you actually believe that you are unworthy and that you've created this entire cosm, this belief system, this environment around you that is fake, that you are hoping to hold together so that it doesn't crack, and then what happens when it does. And it's exceptionally destructive to all the relationships, your own sense of self, whenever things go poorly or not as good as what you had even hoped, these voices come back even louder, but often they're just constantly running in the background. And it's much easier to get rid of an abusive situation for some people when it's outside of you, when it's a boss or a friend or someone else. And not always when it might be a parent or someone that you're in a relationship with. But think about what happens and how difficult it is if that's your inner voice. And what happens if it's the one that you believe, the one that you have all of this proof to, that everyone says this. And then what happens to you? That feeling of this is inevitable, that I'm the mistake. And that's what causes Homelander to go into a panic attack. And for many people, that is exactly what happens. That when things happen really bad, this is just the proof that everything that they said is true and the world comes crashing down around you. Then they go through a panic attack, which for some people, there's completely different interactions. For some people, it might be fight, be aggressive. For other people, it might be flight, be avoidant. For other people, it might be freeze, not do anything. And for other people, it might be fun, be really sweet, try to make them care about you, try to sweeten this area so that nothing bad happens. But you can't run from the voice that's inside of your head.
My sweet boy. What is wrong? Why are you so unhappy?
My father and my son, everything. It's all falling apart.
No. No, it's exactly what needed to happen. You're about to ascend, become immortal, divine, a true God.
And yes, people that go through this kind of a crash can end up having this psychotic episode where they believe things, they hear things, they see things. Things have to be true. And that can be really scary. But to them, it's completely true when they are in this state. They have been touched by God, or they have seen the light, or they have this path. And so because of that, they're going to go through with this. That's what happens when that cognitive dissonance, that truth that you've been trying to protect yourself from starts to crack, that you try to fill it with anything to keep everything together.
No V1 defined.
Oh, there most certainly is.
Yeah, what makes you so sure?
An angel told me. It's my destiny.
Just when I thought there was a ceiling to how weird you could get.
Yes, make your jokes. You've been blessed with immortality. And what have you done with it? You are a disappointment.
Especially when they're at a low developmental level. Whatever you say to them, they're going to just throw that back. The words that you use that hurt them, they're going to use that as a weapon to hurt someone else. It's a way of projecting out the pain. It's a way of putting other people in a place, lowering their level of value to you so that it doesn't hurt as much, that you're not going to get their love and affection. It's a coping mechanism. Now, I'm not even going to say that it's a terrible one, but it's still maladaptive in the way that you throwing out insults is just as bad as the person that threw out the insults in the first way. And I'm not saying that sometimes fighting back is not necessary in certain situations, but in this one, it's just his maladaptive coping mechanism because he is so upset with who he sees himself as, because he's having such an identity crisis. It isn't just that he feels so much pain to have this name put upon him, but by using this as a weapon and lowering their rank, then if he looks at other people as not as worthy and looks down upon them, then when they're throwing rocks up towards him, it doesn't hurt as much. And I think also hurt people. And so in this case, he's hoping to hurt Soldier Boy just like he hurt him, especially when he feels this feeling that he has failed as both a father and as a son. And so that he has this need for a win in any way, shape, or form that he can get it. And this is his way to try to get back power and control.
Dad?
Ryan, I'm really glad you called. I knew you would. It's like a miracle. You like the upgrade?
Do you remember when you took me here? Pretended to care about me?
I do care about you, son. I love you.
And does he actually love Ryan? I think that in his way he does. He actually tries to care, but he's so damaged that ability to genuinely care, to care for someone else at your own cost, isn't there. So it isn't this unconditional love. It is more like a feeling of, I would say, ownership, because he doesn't know anything else. We learn our feelings of empathy and care from being parented. And unfortunately, if you can watch the video, he was treated really horribly and through fear and hurt when he was a child. And so he never had that warm environment in order to grow. And then it becomes really difficult to be able to create trusting environments with those around you.
I need to ask you.
For my forgiveness? You already have it. Okay, let me finish. I put too much pressure on you to fill my boots, and I realize now that, well, that was impossible.
Because he's been hurt by Ryan abandoning him, that's the only thing that he could see would be possible for Ryan to be there for. And we often just see the world through the lens of our own hurt and pain. And so right away, though, he jumps to, you are forgiven for everything that might have happened. But he hasn't first listened to what Ryan needs. I think that he is doing a good job of trying to go through the motions of what Ryan might need from the limited amount of information that he has. His amount of actual care and empathy is really low because everything are things to be able to feed his own hurt and pain, not actually to give at his own risk to others. That's the things that he cares about. The thing that he wants is his father's approval, to be good enough, to have people genuinely love him unconditionally. And so that's the only thing that he sees.
Whatever.
Did you do it? Did you rape my mom?
What? Of course not. Who told you? Did William Butcher tell you that? Your mother and I, we had an affair. A consensual affair between two
Your
adults.
heart's racing.
Well, yeah, because I'm shocked. And frankly, my heart's breaking a little bit that you could think I would do something like that.
And now we can see the first stages of DARVO, and that's the way that narcissists deal with conflict. They deny, then they attack, then they reverse victim with offender, which makes them like, oh, how could you do this to me? He does all of those things in a very short amount of time. Not specifically the attack one yet, but we'll get to that too. A little bit more literally than usually is the case, but it can be really dangerous and you want to make sure that you are safe. I'm just going to state this piece right here. People that have narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality disorder does not mean that they are dangerous, and it does not mean that they are violent. In this case, Homelander is, but those things, even though they can be comorbid, that doesn't mean that they are always in the case. But I don't want people to think that all narcissists are the same thing. And I think that that often happens with media, that we use blanket terms and then people think that just because they might have this, that someone else might be dangerous to them because of that.
Ryan. Ryan, I don't know where this is coming from because your mother, she came on to me. Ryan, son. Ryan, buddy, look what came out of it. My son, a blessing.
It shows that level of like where he cracks, when his statue of him cracks, that facade of trying to be this hero and trying to do the right thing, but how it is not a fully formed sense of self. It is more an outer exterior to that. He's doing his best not to attack Ryan back. He could very effortlessly, but he is trying to do the right thing from things that he's learned and seen. But because he doesn't have that formed as an actual core belief system, he had to relearn that. As you're learning to do something differently, those neural pathways are not as thick. And so often when we are practicing to do something better or different, when there's stress, we often go to old habits because those pathways are stronger. So even if you are learning how to golf, and if you're holding the golf club in the wrong way or you have a bad swing, if you've done that more often than the right way when you're under a lot of stress, you will often go back to bad habits. Neural pathways for emotional regulation are exactly the same.
made me do?
There's a lot of cases in abusive situations where the person's going to say, look what you made me do, to deflect off blame for their own actions. And I think that Homelander did his best to mitigate attacking back Ryan as much as he could up until this point where everything changes. And I'll go through the usual thing, is that even if you're angry at someone, it does not excuse violence, that you should find another way to deal with things. And that's why if you are bringing something up to someone that might have really aggressive tendencies, you want to be really careful how you deal with that. And yes, whether you're man, woman, child, you should not be using aggression in order to get your point across, or if you're upset at someone else. I think that goes without saying, but I say it anyways because someone will bring that up in the comments. But I'll make sure to go to say that just in case that isn't understood.
It's okay. My sweet, sweet boy.
And that's that scary moment where there is no longer like a sense of aggression in Homelander. This is not to protect himself. When we're talking about protecting yourself, the amount of force that you should use should be reasonable and proportionate. But in this case, Ryan's no longer a threat. So Homelander is doing this for another reason. This is not a defense to Homelander to say that this is okay, but this is to understand what can happen to people when they've been through strong trauma. Even animals, exactly the same thing, that when they've been overloaded, when they feel like they've cracked, when they feel that this hurts so very much, all of that internal turmoil is often expressed outward in a very damaging way. And for me, when I see this scene, I'm thinking about how he feels, how dare you also betray me, and that I must be a failure because even my son doesn't love me, and that all of those words that are going through his head that he's heard other people say to him.
Disappointment. The pitiful disappointment you are.
You're pathetic.
Weak. You're my greatest failure.
You're nothing at all.
He's now projecting that outward at Ryan. And for a lot of people, especially when they have traits that are in the bullying family, they want to bully someone else that can't fight back because that feels good for that moment. And so all of those words of failure, all of those words of betrayal, of abandonment, all of those feelings of that the one person that he created, he even failed at creating a son that loves him. And so instead of blaming himself, he is going to project that out and unleash that pain upon Ryan, the pain that he feels inside of himself. And for a lot of people, when they go through sense of aggression, they actually feel better when they're yelling and screaming, and they feel a relief afterwards. When they break something or throw something, it's actually this feeling of they feel better. They have caused all kinds of trauma around everyone around them, but they have a lowering of their sense of aggression after that fact and a sense of relief. So emotional regulation actually takes a lot of resources and is not an easy skill to be able to learn and practice. You need to be always paying attention to it and what's happening. What is the story that's happening inside of your head? And even like with the quivering of Ryan's chin, like there's no empathy. There's no, oh, I've scared him. It's just, I had always wondered, like, is he gonna get that, oh my God, I shouldn't have done this? But no, he just doubles down upon it. It's almost like he feels contempt for him, that he sees the weakness in Ryan as the weakness that he sees in someone else. Often we don't like the traits that we see in others are the traits that we dislike the most that we see inside of ourselves. And the traits that we admire in others, such as Soldier Boy, who comes off as very aloof and not caring about anything, are the traits that we wish that we had in ourselves. And so we often look up to people with those traits and look down upon the people that we see as ourselves at our weakest. So that's my thoughts of this scene, of what exactly happened in the head of Homelander. And I want to say thank you to the 2 people that became members to my channel from the last video. Really did mean the world to me. So hopefully I'll see you in the next video.